Welcome to the 11th episode of Solution Illuminators Series. I have a very esteemed guest with me today. This comes once in a lifetime. I'm going to read his biography. In 1984, Mr. Kishore Seunarine migrated to the United States from his native Guyana. His introduction to show business was already ignited with a part in the movie The Sounds of the Sugarcane when he was 15 years old. For him, this was only the beginning, a very artistic and creative personality. Yes, Mr. Kishore has appeared in movies, on television, numerous community theater productions, and hosted events for various community organizations. Though he had a strong media presence, he's mostly known as an MC and being one of the most recognized Indo-Caribbean voices. He has emceed for various music bands traveling across the United States, Canada, England, and Ireland of the Caribbean. He became the voice of the Bollywood Music, Film, and Fashion Awards 2002 to 2011 and has voiced the award shows at the Hamilton Ballroom, the Roseland Ballroom in New York City, the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, and the Trump Taj Tahal in Atlantic City. Since then, he went on to host a night of fusion at Lincoln Center in New York City and on March India at the Venetian Convention Center in Las Vegas. As a director, Kishore's work was presented at IIT Bombay's Golden Jubilee celebration at the Marriott Marquis on Broadway and Children's Hope Indians Fund Raiser Gala on Wall Street. Through it all, he has consistently worked with youth of his community throughout various religious and non-profit organizations. On a patriotic level, Kishore actively participated in planning, executing, and hosting of interfaith services for the celebration of Guyana's 50th anniversary of independence in 2016, held in New York City. Kishore's latest addition to his repertoire of artistry is the writer, producer, and director of the docudrama Echoes from the Plantation. This docudrama tells the story of the first Indians to arrive in what was British Guyana on May 5, 1838. Kishore's style is friendly and interactive. He has a love for the arts. Wow, that's quite intimidating. Thank you. Please welcome my guest, Mr. Kishore Seunarine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Famuyiwa. It's most gracious of you to have me on today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so the last statement stated clearly that you have love for the arts. And judging by your introduction, it started when you were 15.
Oh, yes.
How did you discover you have love for art at such an early age?
I think it's discovered the way we all do. When we were kids growing up, the first thing you know, the first time you ever sang was probably in church. The first musical instrument you ever played was probably in church. That's where it developed. Wow. Because as a kid, you go to the church, you go to your temples, and you engage in your cultural activities, and your parents would push you to, if you're Christian, it'll be Sunday school. If you're Muslim or Hindu, it'll be whatever their version of Sunday school is. and then you participate. And to keep you involved, they will always do like a little show, and then you get on stage and you glorify yourself and you feel powerful. So when I was a kid, same thing happened. And in 1977, the temple was doing a fundraiser. So they had this variety show, and I was cast to act in it. While I was on stage, in the audience, there was a gentleman from the movie company who was looking at it. And the next day, he took me to the movie company and says, this guy has a little bit of talent here. We should use him. And that was my introduction into that. And in terms of music and singing and all of that, not that I'm a singer, it all started in the temple.
Wow.
And I think the same thing is true for most of the talent. Whitney Houston did the same thing. She used to sing with her mother in church.
Yeah. It's amazing how most people's stories are like that. You start from a church whereby a situation whereby there's less judgment. It's like you're just trying things out. You're just trying to find out who you are. But then when you get outside of that, it's when people start having a very high expectation of you and what you do.
Right. Well, you see, when you're in church, it's a captive audience, right? And nobody will ever boo you in church.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about church is you come in for free, but you have to pay to leave.
Wow.
When you give a little donation when you're leaving, not when you come in.
Yeah.
So nobody's booing you, but when you go to the concert hall, you pay the money up front.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very funny truth that we all have to just accept.
It is, but on the plus side, right? The temple and performing in front of a live audience, regardless what you're doing, whether you're singing, you're playing an instrument, you're reading the announcements, you're making a speech, it doesn't matter. That is a practice for life. Because if you take that same experience and you make it larger and you go to a boardroom, you're now talking to people, but you've already had that practice. You've been talking to people in church every Sunday or whenever the opportunity arises. And that practice, you couldn't get anywhere else. Because if you practice with friends, it's a different mindset. It's not structured. If you practice on the playground, it's a different mindset. It's not structured. But in church, you have a certain structure to work with. Certain languages you wouldn't use, certain expressions you wouldn't use. So there is structure.
Yeah.
And it trains the mind.
Wow. Excellent. I mean, I'm not surprised about that. Being someone that actually grew up in church and still going to church, it's something that is very true. So the next thing that I also find very interesting is that, having discovered this at a very early age of 15 years old, you still decided to expose yourself to other things, like your professional 9-to-5 job before you left the job. Would you recommend the same thing, to actually expose oneself to other things, or would you say, well, it's better to just streamline it? Because this is where my question is coming from. Because most of the people that are actually known worldwide doing something, they actually discover early in life what they want to do and what they're actually good at doing, and they stay with it. And when they do this for 15, 20 years, they become the celebrities that we know.
Right. And it's interesting that you say for 15 to 20 years, they become the celebrity we know. And in show business, there's a term that we use. It takes a lot of years to become an overnight success.
Right.
Because the audience sees you as an overnight success. They don't see how many years you put into that. They just see that one morning they woke up and, wow, here's this guy. For them, it's overnight. For you, it's 20, 25 years. So that's why we say it takes a lot of years to be an overnight success. It's a gift if you can know what you want to do earlier. Take in your profession as a professor. You have students in your classroom who've been there for 2, 3 years and still haven't decided on a major. That is a process. Because while you don't want to lose the credits, you also don't want to get out of the rhythm. So you're going through the motions, but you still don't know that that's where you want to go. It's like being in a traffic jam. You're going in the right direction, just not at the speed you want to go.
Wow.
Right? So for me, I looked at all the other opportunities available to me. My 9-to-5 job was accounting.
Yes, that's what I'm getting to.
Right. My 9-to-5 job was accounting since I was 19 or 18, maybe. But I don't know that that was what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I decided I'm going to create a balance. While I have my 9-to-5 job, I have what I enjoy doing. And your dream job is to do what you like and like what you do. So if I didn't like what was going on in my 9-to-5 job, I know in the evening I got music, I got drama, I got poetry, I got volunteering, I got a bunch of stuff that balances off that. In the process, you will find something else that you like. So for me, before I even had a job, because at 15 I was still in school, arts was there. And it stayed with me. My balance was to give me satisfaction, not only a paycheck. So when I started in acting, I also looked to volunteer behind the camera. I learned sound. I learned lights. I learned a little bit of photography. Back in those days, it was actual 35mm camera. So you used to load film into the camera, a big canister of film like this, where you had to pick it up. It was like about 10 pounds. And you put it in a black bag and all of that. So it was 35mm film. I didn't learn a whole lot about that because one of those cameras you couldn't afford. But I learned sound, I learned light, I learned directing. I learned a lot of logistics, how to juggle schedules. And as I developed and I grew, I started using a lot of that in my regular life because life imitates art and art imitates life.
Wow.
They don't exist in isolation. So to answer your question, if I would suggest that people do that, yes, keep your options open. But look at the caterpillar. A caterpillar will not leave one leaf before it gets to the other one. So don't leave what you have, hoping to catch something else.
Yeah.
Get that other one first before you leave what you have.
All right. The more reason when we're trying to picture somebody who is trying to use rope to move, you still have to use one hand to hold one rope before you try to catch the next one.
There's a lot to learn from a monkey.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to say that, but you said
they don't let go of one limb before they reach the other.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we actually have Nazima London. Actually, she said when you were saying something about the church and things like that, she said that's very true, and that's what she had in the comment. Thank you for joining, Nazima London. So the next question that I have is connected to the fact that you started at that early age of 15, and the movie that you acted in was called The Songs of the Sugar Cane.
Right. Sounds of the Sugar Cane, correct.
Sounds of the Sugar Cane. How was your experience doing that at such an early age?
That was very eye-opening. So my first scene in the movie was a night sequence. And I had no idea how long a movie took. I had no idea how long it takes to shoot a scene. All I know we have is a night scene in a village. I said, okay, I'm in. So after school, showed up, got on the bus, went to location. And, the production company provides transportation, all of that. Got to the location. And it was a far out place because it was a remote village. Started shooting. Excitement and adrenaline, you have no idea what time it is. And at that age, you're just glad to be out of the house. You got bragging rights. You're 15 years old. It's out at night. You're hanging out with celebrities. You're with actors. I've been on a movie set. You can't wait to get to school to tell your story. So we wrapped up shooting. Producer said, okay, those of you who are going to the hotel, get on this bus. Those of you who are going to a drop-off location, get on that bus. Me, thinking to myself, yeah, I'm it. I'm all pumped up. I ain't going to no hotel. I'm going home. I want to tell my friends I walked the street at whatever time in the morning. There's a center of commerce in Georgetown, Guyana called Stabroek. So I said, drop me by Stabroek. So they dropped me by Stabroek. The bus took off. I looked up at the clock, the old Big Ben style clock. It was 1:15 in the morning. The last ferry to my town left at 12. There were no cell phones back then. There were no beepers. There were none text message. So that night I slept with the homeless on a cardboard at the Georgetown ferry to Stellan.
Wow.
The next morning, the first ferry left at 5 from Georgetown to go to the West Demerara. So I took that ferry, got home. And I tell you, I don't know how I reached home. I sleepwalk. Got home. And when I woke up, then I go, okay, let me go to school. Oh, wait, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Slept all day.
Wow.
So that was that experience on the first time shooting.
Wow. So it was fun, basically.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what we can quickly connect to that is that the fact is that not too long ago, you actually wrote, directed, and produced Echoes from the Plantation.
Right.
So my question about that is that how did the experience you just narrated now actually helped you with the new role that you had, which is having 3 roles in the same movie, right? You wrote, you directed, and you produced. How did the past experience you had impacted this new one?
So that's going to take a while to explain. Not that I'm telling you I wouldn't. So let's begin by going back a little to your introduction when you said that I'm from Guyana.
Yes.
And Guyana sounds similar to Ghana. And before you had WhatsApp and internet, when I came to New York in the 80s, and I would mail a postcard to my family in Guyana. Instead of taking 3-4 weeks, it'll take 6 to 8 weeks. And when it arrived in Guyana, it had a stamp from Ghana. Because even the US Postal Service somehow or the other thought Guyana was Ghana, so it went to Ghana.
Oh.
And then it went to Guyana because it was redirected. So let's begin by saying where Guyana is.
Yeah.
Guyana is a small country, 83,000 square miles, smaller than Nigeria.
Wow.
83,000 square miles, and it's on the northern tip of the South American continent. So Guyana is South America.
Wow.
That is where we're located. So now, you look at me, I look Indian. And you look at Indians from India, and they look like me, and I look like them. And there's a
Yeah.
reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is the British, when slavery was abolished in 1834, between 1834 and 1838, they had an issue with labor because they were accustomed to having slave labor. The plantations need to operate so that they can get money and do whatever it is that they do. They tried Portuguese from Madeira, Portugal, didn't work. Tried Chinese, didn't work. So then the owner of the plantation in Demerara, John Gladstone, he decided to carry out an experiment. And the experiment was bring Indians from India. The geography is the same. The temperature is the same. Maybe they will work. And the British had already colonized India, so they can do whatever they want.
Oh.
So they went to India, and they brought the Indians to Guyana. So that's that backstory. My experience on the movie set as a writer, you and I are both members of Toastmaster.
Yes.
In 2014, I entered into a speech competition. And in Toastmaster, there are different categories and types of competitions. So this one was called Research Your Speech. So I did research on sugar plantation. And I presented a speech called Brown Sugar is Too Bitter for Me.
Oh.
And I presented my speech. And the speech won the competition. So Toastmasters, normally the speech is about 5 to 7 minutes. 2 years later, 2016, Toronto have, it's not a festival, but there is in May, they have what's called Asian Heritage Month. So some friends of mine, we were invited to perform in a drama in Toronto. So I used that Toastmaster speech as an opening monologue to a play. And while I'm delivering that monologue on stage, I can see people sitting in the audience. Tears are welling up in their eyes and then trickle down their cheeks. And at the end of the play, when I got off stage, people would come up to me and go, "Man, you should record that and put it on YouTube." So now we've gone from the old age to technology, right? And I go, put it on YouTube. What am I going to see when you hear this recording? Oh, we'll just pull some pictures from the internet. I go, no, that ain't going to happen. I've been an actor. I've been an artist since time immemorial. And I'm going to take somebody else's picture and put my voice to it and call it a production? No, that's not fair to me nor to the other guy. So I decided I'm going to make a production out of it. So I took the 7 minutes speech of Brown Sugar is Too Bitter for Me. And just in case there are people who are listening from the Caribbean, there's a movie also called Brown Sugar is Too Bitter for Me. That's produced and directed by a friend of mine. And we both started acting in the same movie at the same time. So I took that speech and expanded it. So I started writing the script in 2016. create echoes from the plantation. My experience on the movie set as a young actor, remember I said I started learning lighting and cameras and sound? All of that came back to me then, because now there's responsibility. And you fall back on your previous knowledge and experience. When we were shooting 35 millimeter then, we're shooting digital now. So some of my experience was limited. But my cameraman, I made sure I have a cameraman who understands camera. And more importantly, he understands my language. When I tell him I want this, that's what I want. Because you see, you will get camera people who will understand wedding photography, but wedding photography and film photography are different.
Yeah.
So that's how my experience from those days come into all gel together in creating Echoes from the Plantation.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Very detailed. And you just mentioned about Guyana, a little bit about Guyana and how the culture is. And it just made me to want to ask you that when you first came into America in 1984, thereabout. By the way, that was when I was born. So, it's a long time ago. So when you came, I wonder how America was then compared to what you experienced in Guyana before you came in. The music, the videos, the culture. Did you experience any cultural shock, and which of the cultural shock would you like to tell us about?
The biggest cultural shock was to see a woman smoke.
Ooh.
The biggest cultural shock was to see a woman smoke. In Guyana, even a guy doesn't smoke. He hides in smoke. And after he smokes a cigarette, he will chew mint, he will chew bubble gum, anything to get that smell away before he go home.
Wow.
So that was the biggest cultural shock.
Wow. 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 Wow.
In terms of anything else, I was an avid reader. Can you tell?
Yes, of course. Clearly.
I was an avid reader, and growing up in Guyana, you hear about a third world country. Let me paint a little picture for you, for those of you who are from a third world experience but born in America. We would have one book, and all your friends in the village would line up and put your name on a list to read that one book. So I used to read American books. Sidney Sheldon, Other Side of Midnight, Carpetbagger, 79 Park Avenue. From the British side, there was Alistair MacLean, Guns of Navarone, Where Eagles Dare, Ken Follett, Eye of the Needle. There were so many others. Louis L'Amour, the Westerns. We used to read those. So a lot of the settings, whether it's the American Midwest or the American West or the urban cities, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, we already read about these in books. We had no idea what these artifacts, literary artifacts, were referred to, but we knew about them and we knew that they existed somewhere. When I came to New York, I would read a street sign and go, I knew about that. Oh, I know Park Avenue. I've heard of Madison Avenue. I really haven't. It was just memories coming back from all these books. So for me to assimilate into North American life was very easy. And because I was an avid reader, and this was before internet again, internet only came about available to the public in 1996. I would buy a book, a map book, Rand McNally, and I would read the map. So I'll
Hmm.
find my house on the map. I will find my location, and then I would look all other directions and follow and follow and follow. And then I became geographically aware. Then when I would drive somewhere, instead of taking the highway, I'll take the local route and follow the map just to develop that awareness. So my culture shock was not that much, except for the fact that when I saw a woman smoke, I was like, wow, this
Wow.
mu- I'm not sure if this was freedom or rebellion.
Yeah. Excuse me. So it feels like the cultural shock also changed over time because we're talking about around 1984, which was almost around the time that I was born.
Right.
And of recent, when I had family and I went to Miami Beach with my family, I did not just see just smoking. I saw people actually walking naked on the beach there, and that's something that coming from African country whereby it's really conserved. It was something I had to I had to touch people who are from America and call them. Is this normal? Is this what you guys do here? And they was, oh yeah, it's normal. The people on the beach, they just enjoy themselves. It's it's
You
quite
know,
awesome.
here's an interesting thing. Did you grow up in Africa?
Yeah, 30 years of my life. 30.
Okay. What's the temperature like?
Oh, the temperature is almost like just like Florida. Sunny, very warm.
Right.
Yeah.
And growing up in Africa, you were more aware of the desert environment and desert situation.
Yes.
Have you ever seen the people in the desert wear bikinis because the place is hot?
No.
So that's not an excuse, right?
It's no. That's my point. That's what I'm saying. That's my own cultural shock. Up to today, I still have it. The image in my head. It still messes with
That
my head.
one of the hottest places in is the deserts of Saudi Arabia. But you see them in full headgear, head to toe, because the science is if you wear breathable clothes, you keep the heat out and allow the air in. And you wear light colored clothes to reflect heat. But when you take it all off, then you go spend the rest of your life buying skincare products and anti-cancerous medication. But you did that to yourself.
Yeah.
So I found that very interesting too.
Wow. Wow. You just mentioned something very interesting, which is now a big concern now. We're just talking about culture. It feels like we're having a conversation. It's relaxing. It's something that we can't do anything about, but we can just laugh about it. But there's something very serious that just came up during the conversation: cancer, which is what I do research on in the past, and I'm still doing some research on. It's very funny how something like culture can affect health condition like that. It feels like, oh, culture is a way of life. You just have to allow people to live their life. It's their culture. Just leave them the way it is. But then when it comes to health condition, I think we want the same thing, right? Everybody wants to be healthy.
Well, let's look at it this way. The same way we said that it takes many years to become an overnight success, culture has been developed over hundreds of years. And there is a tendency to mix up culture and religion. They're different. Now, the culture is environmental. You look, and I can speak from an Indian perspective.
Mhm.
You look at the Indian cuisine, And someone knew, oh, it's too spicy. There's a reason for all of that spice. Oh, but I don't like this spice, and I don't like that spice, and I don't like this spice. Well, okay. Also look at the ailments that affects that population. And when I say Indian, that's clear. Indian is not only a particular nationality, right? Because I'm Indian, but I wasn't born in India.
Mhm.
But you have that region where politically it's called Southeast Asia. There's Bangladesh, there's Sri Lanka, there's Burma, that whole region where those spices are prevalent. Look at the natural cures in that area. And we'll take one and mention that. Look at the Western world and the value that is now being placed on turmeric, the yellow color that gives curry its color, the health benefits, the cosmetic benefits, the cancerous benefits, all the properties of turmeric. It's like it's a magic, all of a sudden it's the magic thing. But then there's so many other combinations. Look at other areas of the world. Look at Africa. Now you have flour in the supermarkets. But in Africa, the tribal people wouldn't grind the wheat to make flour or corn 1 week in advance. They will grind it when they need it because their culture told them that fresh ground corn or wheat is better for them. They didn't go to university for that. They just knew that over hundreds and hundreds of years. They didn't have refrigerator, but they knew how to keep meat. They know how to preserve it. You talk about solar power now, they were using the sun since then.
Yeah.
Right? You talk about hypertension with salt today. They should have been dead a long time ago because they would salt their meat, put it out in the sun, dry it, and no refrigerator will keep it for months. So all of that cultural activity that was handed down from generation to generation to generation evolved. And collectively, people kept that. So when you think about culture, that's another way in which culture is promoted.
Wow. 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 Excellent. So still on how culture can affect health condition.
Yes.
Now that we are talking about the health condition and things like that, when I first heard about songs of the sugarcane echoes from plantation and the fact that there's something about sugar there, the first thing that came to my mind is that, well, maybe it's because sugar is bad for health and things like that. But then when I now watch the whole video, I saw that it's even more than that for Guyana. The story of the sugar and slavery and Guyana. So can you let us in a little bit about the connection between the sugar, which is more than the health condition in this case, the slavery going that went on some times ago, and also Guyana as a country?
So in the 1800s, why was there suddenly this great demand for sugar? Two major things happened in that time. The invention of soda and ice cream. Ice cream was available before the 1800s, but only to the kings and the elites. And with that, increased the demand for sugar. And sugar is addictive, so that pushed that demand also. The British had already owned plantations, so sugar was a big cash crop. And that's why they needed to hold on to that. Guyana, the Indians came to replace slave labor after slavery ended. And that's how they came to Guyana. Guyana was already a British colony, and it was called British Guyana, and Guyana was spelled Guiana, and they did their thing for a number of years, and then in 1966, Guyana became an independent country, and the name changed from Guiana, British Guyana, to just Guyana, Guyana, and the word Guyana means land of many waters.
Mm-hmm.
That's the native Amerindian name. And while we're using the word Indian and Amerindian, there's North America, there's South America. America, Indian. Amerindian. It's a portmanteau word. And when you hear most of the world say Indian, depending on which side of the world you are, you might think Southeast Asia, or you might think Native American Indian. So Guyana specifically say Amerindian, or indigenous people. And I think that word is now becoming a little bit more global. And that's the connection between the sugar and the Indians. And that's why the echoes from the plantation. And I think you had mentioned earlier echoes. When I created the name, I spelt it ECHOS.
Yes.
Not ECHOES. Because visually, when you see ECHOES, you think of multiple or plurality.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at ECHOS, it doesn't give you that sense of plural, even though it is. And that echo was one single echo that came out of the plantation. It was suffering, whether for the slaves from Africa or the indentured laborers from India. And the indentureship was just slavery by a different name. That's all it was.
Wow. Wow. I mean, the natural question from that will be, based on all this that have happened, the fact that people have made movies out of these real life experiences, do you think that we've learned from this based on what is happening in countries now, the current politics that is being played? People are saying that certain countries are helping certain countries because of something they're gonna do eventually, things like that.
It's politics. How much we learn from our past experiences is directly related to how much we remember of it.
Yeah.
The past happened. What some guy wrote is history. Because what is recorded isn't exactly what happened. It depends on the point of view, who's doing the writing. Like for example, killing is bad. That depends on who's being killed and who's doing the killing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things have connotations and conjectures. Have we learned from it? Time will tell. And here's the reason why. With every passing day, one generation who has that knowledge and experience is passing out. A new generation is coming in with no knowledge and experience. So have to experience that all for themselves before they realize it's actually real. For example, Guyana is a country. In 1962-63, there was a huge riot. between the Africans and the Indians. But the African experience and the Indian experience on the sugar plantation was the same. They had no reason to hate each other. So then why did this riot happen? It was manipulated by the United States. During that time, there was the Bay of Pigs invasion in Cuba. The incoming president or the contestant was openly socialist, Dr. Chatterjee. America knew that communism had a very strong presence in Cuba. They didn't want one in South America. There was not a strong presence in on the South American continent. So the CIA manipulated the elections in Guyana and created a rift between the two races and installed in the government who they wanted. And their racism was born. Today's generation doesn't know that.
I didn't know that. This is the first time hearing it.
Well, luckily, United States have a policy that documents become declassified after a certain time. So in 1993, when those documents became declassified, Ted Kennedy mentioned an apology for what happened to Guyana. But now, back to my point, as that generation who experienced this passes out, the newer generation doesn't even know it exists. So to answer your question, have we learned? We may have, if we take the time to look for it. You learn by research or you learn by experience. Certain things you cannot experience, so you have to research.
Right. And so what came up now during your conversation is the gap in generational knowledge, because the fact that a particular generation experienced this and that they know it's real, but another generation can come, well, we don't know what it's all about. A good example of that is slavery, right? And we see how people work and we see how youths of nowadays still want to sag their pants, not knowing that they actually trying to bring about memories that people are trying to forget and things like that.
It's a lot to do with pop culture also, because a lot of what we do is influenced by the environment in which we're in, the music that you listen, the movie that you look at. And there's going to be arguments that video games are violent, therefore kids are going to be violent, violence on TV. Well, the reverse is also true. As a researcher, you don't pick a point of view and stick to it. You let the point of view prove itself. So if you look at, say that the kids who wear the baggy pants and whatever are perpetuating a particular lifestyle, what about the ones who don't? So if you're going to blame one facet of the behavior, why is the other facet not being credited? And it's always easier, the path of least resistance, the most excitement. There is no excitement in obedience. There's excitement in rebelliousness.
Mm-hmm.
So the rebel is seen as the hero, right? Rebel without a cause. It's just for the fun of it.
Wow.
So all of these things are just expressions, and if it's packaged in the proper way, you will get popularity. For example, very beautiful song, Amazing Grace. How many younger people know Amazing Grace? But if someone was to take Amazing Grace and put it into a very powerful bass kicking hip hop beat, they all would. It's the packaging.
Right.
And it's how you get the buy-in, right? If you have a celebrity, you buy into that image, you buy into that bling and cars and fancy clothes and swag look before you even listen to the message. You know, there's a thing that you say, you buy into the person before the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that influences it.
Hmm. Wow. Yes, I think it's called The Law of Buy-in by John Maxwell. You buy into the person before you buy into their vision.
Right.
I think we were even talking about this during the club meeting.
Oh, I didn't.
This Thursday, we're still talking about this.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it feels like it's getting really exciting to know more about culture, Guyana's culture, American culture, and things like that. What I really want to know now is, based on your own journey and the things that you've been able to do, what are the habits that you have? What are the things that you do that actually made it possible for you to get into the arts and make some impact like this? Besides, of course, besides reading, that's obvious based on your background. Besides reading books, what are the things you do, the skill development that you engage in that puts you in a position to be able to write, produce, and direct a movie, just like the echoes from the plantation?
The first thing you have to do is to have a very open mind, have an inquisitive mind. If you don't know something, know that you don't know. So have an open mind. Whatever you don't know, find out. If you're embarking on a project, don't expect to know everything, but you should know people who know some of it. So if you want to produce a movie, know what are the elements of the movie. There's going to be light, there's going to be sound, there's going to be acting, there's going to be directing, there's going to be catering, there's going to be camera, there's going to be transportation, there's going to be costume, there's going to be all of this. You, as a producer, cannot know all of it. So now you're going to find people. You get a light director, you get a cinematographer, you get a sound guy, you get a transportation manager. There's so many moving parts. You cannot do it all. You know, they say that the leader leads and the manager manages. So you as a leader have to find the right manager, because while you are focused on the vision, they have to focus on the mechanics of achieving the vision. Right?
Yes.
The car and all the passengers have to get into the same destination and move in the same direction. But all the parts are working their own individual pieces. And the steering wheel, when it says turn right, the wheel doesn't go Y, it just goes right. So that comes with an alignment of vision and purpose. And in life, we do the same thing. Know what your vision is, know what your purpose is, and move in that direction.
Wow. Wow, that's really exciting. So, based on your experiences in art and knowing a lot about culture, what would your advice be for somebody who is who think they want to go into acting, they want to go into writing, producing, directing? What did you wish you knew at the beginning?
What I wish I knew at the beginning is that you can't pay the rent with a desire.
Oh,
You can have a desire to be a superstar. Doesn't mean you'll become a superstar. Get yourself grounded first, and that's where my 9 to 5 job came in. People ask me, what's your profession? And I go, no, I think you mean what's my occupation? because professionally, I don't think I was ever an accountant. Occupationally, I was an accountant. My mind was always in arts and cultural activities and activism and all of that kind of stuff. Be grounded first in what will be your launch pad. Even the rocket that goes to the moon has a firm base. You must establish a firm base. Let that be your educational background. Let that be your skill, whether you're a carpenter, a mechanic, an accountant, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever it is that you are doing as your base, that must be the strongest base. And from there, you can branch out and launch into anything you want, but have a base of operation. And don't be afraid to say, I don't know this, and then start learning it.
Excellent. Excellent. This is really getting exciting, and it's good information you've been giving us. Based on all your experiences, acting, writing, producing, what should we be expecting from you now? What's the next?
I've done works for friends of mine in other productions, and the thing that I haven't done for myself is publish my own book. So that's what I'm working on right now, and
Wow.
it's going to be fiction. It's not going to be a memoir.
Oh, fictional.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Now we're coming to the end of the whole session. It's been exciting, funny, educative. That's what it has been on the session today. The last thought for our viewers, what would you want to say to our viewers as we end the session? Is there anything that we missed that you wanted to say?
The only thing I would probably say, and this goes for everyone of every age, you have to live your life. Parents tend to want to live their lives through their children. What they fail to achieve, they try to get their children to do it for them. That's not necessarily a good thing, nor is it a bad thing. But you must know when you're pushing your child too far into what it is that they are not capable of. And what's the reason you're pushing them for? If you know that they're capable of it, and when I say no, I mean have solid evidence that you know, not because you want to motivate them. Come on, I know you can do it. That's not good enough. Let that child develop what their skill is, or they're going to spend all their time trying to develop a new skill, ignoring the one they already have. Let your skill work for you, and it will make way for you. And I'll give you an example. In the introduction, you talk about, I did the voiceovers for the Bollywood stuff. Yes, I did. So how did it happen? Again, it was from Temple. I was reading the announcement. There was a guy sitting in the audience. He heard me and he goes, this guy's got a good voice. And he introduced me to the chairman of the Bollywood Awards. When he introduced me to the chairman of the Bollywood Awards, the chairman of the Bollywood Awards, he's the leader. He's not the manager. He's not putting things together. He didn't have me do a voiceover. He had me bring a box from here, put it over there, make sure that this is here, fetch that here. On the day of the show, the first production, all the logistics are taken care of. And the actual stage director said, okay, we need to open the show. You can do this, you can do that. And I go, I can do that. And he go, really? I said, yeah. So he told the sound engineer, give this guy a microphone. So he gave me the microphone and I tested it out. And he go, you got a voice. And that was it.
Wow, wow. And there's something that we did not touch, which I knew, that you hosted a lot of presidents, you've done a lot of MC and things like that.
Well, MCing, yeah, it took off like that. In show business, you're only as good as the last show that you did, because that's the one that people remember. And when I said I hosted presidents, when there were presidential elections in Guyana, and they would come to New York, and they would have these town hall meetings, and sometimes they will need an interview or a mediator, and then I'll come in. So I hosted President Bharjak Day when he was president of Guyana, and I used my Toastmaster skills there. People would come up during the Q&A and go, "Oh, I knew when you were growing up." It's a small country. People knew everybody, right? "I knew when you were growing up, I knew your grandfather." And I was like, "Wait, that's not what you're supposed to do. This is a Q&A." So when the guy went off, I came back on the microphone and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Q&A. If you're going to come up for a question, please have a question." And then I turned to the president and I said, and no, it was no fault of the president, because the guy didn't have a question, so he was like trying to make up a response, and he went on, and I said, "When you come up to the Q&A, make sure you have a question, and Mr. President, we could keep the response to 3 minutes. That way we can get everyone's in." One guy in the audience came up to me and go, "Are you a Toastmaster?" And I go, "Yep." He go, "You took charge of the meeting?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." So yeah, I did a few of those. I did the Venetian Convention Center in Las Vegas. That was Unmatched India. They were talking about jewelry, all precious diamonds and all of that from around the world. And I'll give you one of my experiences there. How it happened is that you have the models that are coming on the stage and they're wearing diamond brooches and bracelets and earrings and all these jewelry. And the camera will pick up the image and throw it up on a big 20-foot by 20-foot TV screen. And while you're seeing it up there, I am describing what you're seeing so you can know all the intricacies of it. When that happened, one of the models tripped backstage. So the stage is empty. In my ear, the director said, "Keep talking, Kishore. Keep talking." Everything was scripted. There was a book on the table. I just picked up the book and turned to the back cover, because the back cover is usually a synopsis of something in the book. And in the same tone of voice, I started reading. Off script, but in the same tone of voice. By that time, she came back on and I went back on script.
Wow.
So yeah, your talent is going to find room for you. It's going to make room for you.
Yeah, that's a very good lesson, because you always try to adapt to the situation that you find yourself.
Yeah, I did radio. It's the same thing. I got in church. A friend of mine picked me up from there, and he was like, "Come with me." I didn't know where we were going. Took me to the radio station, introduced me to the producer, put me to sit behind a microphone, flipped the switch and says, "Talk." And I just did something randomly, and he go, "You were live on air." And that's it.
Wow. Thank you so much. We're gonna wrap up now. Thank you, Nazima London, for joining. She's been really engaging. She learned a lot from the session, and she's looking forward to your next movie. Right? We're all rooting for you. We want to see your next movie and your first book, so we can have another conversation about that also. It's very nice having you here. It's a privilege to have such a celebrity. Right? I'm just fortunate to have access to you. Somebody was still telling me, "I'm trying to get access to this person." Yeah, I'm going to see what I can do to help with that. Thank you so much. It's a privilege for being here. We're wrapping up now. Our viewers, if you want to reach out to Mr. Kishore Seunarine, you can actually reach out to me. I can try to connect you with him if you're interested in connecting with him. Thank you so much, Mr. Kishore. It's a privilege. I really appreciate your time, your energy, your wisdom. I hope our viewers have learned a lot and they're going to use one of few things and one of the things that we've talked about today to actually make their life better. That's the whole point of it. Thank you so much and see you next episode.
Thank
Bye.
you very much, Dr.
Yeah,
Famuyiwa.
thank you so much. Yeah.